Hi everyone, and welcome back to Mission 1820 and this week's episode of Have You Ever Wondered? If this is your first time joining us, we've been in a series called Books of the Bible, where we've been giving introductions into each book of the Bible in just 5 minutes or less. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into this week's book. Now, this week we are in the book of Colossians. This is the 13th book of the New Testament, which Paul wrote from prison around AD 60 or AD 61. And just so we understand, although Paul was in prison when he wrote this letter, he actually had Tychicus and Onesimus bring the letter to the Colossians. Now, the city of Colossus is located in the Roman province of Asia, which we consider Western Turkey now. And it's situated in the Lycus River Valley, about 100 miles east of Ephesus. The book of Colossians is one of the shorter epistles that was written by Paul. It only has 4 chapters, and we've broken that down into 2 parts. Now, part 1 is called Supremacy of Christ in the Church. This is found in chapters 1 and 2, and these chapters are what are considered the doctrinal part of this book. Part 2 is called Submission to Christ in the Church. This is in chapters 3 and 4, and these 2 chapters are considered the practical aspects of this book. Now, the book of Colossians is perhaps the most Christ-centered book in the Bible, because Paul spends a great deal of time and effort stressing the preeminence of the person of Christ, as well as the completeness of the salvation that only he provides. It also appears that Paul never actually visited the city of Colossus himself, but the church was actually founded by a guy by the name of Epaphras, and it was also some of Paul's earlier converts that helped with that. However, the church had been infiltrated by religious relativism. This means that there were believers that were attempting to combine the elements of paganism and secular philosophy with Christian doctrine. And in his letter, Paul confronts these false teachings, and he stresses to the church the sufficiency of Christ alone. You see, Paul clearly teaches that Christ has paid for sin and that Christ has reconciled us to God, and that he also gives us the pattern and the power to grow spiritually. And because Christ is the exact likeness of God, when we learn what he's like, we see what we need to become. Throughout this letter, Paul combats a heresy similar to Gnosticism, which means the Gnostics believed that it took some sort of special power to be accepted by God, but they also believed that even those who claimed to be Christians, Christ alone was not the way of salvation. But Paul, he takes a clever path with the Colossians, because he doesn't directly argue with them about their false doctrines, but rather what he does, and you'll see this beginning in the first chapter, Paul builds a positive case for Christian truth by showing the preeminence of Christ in everything, and also stating that the addition of any other things actually dilutes rather than strengthens the faith. So how do we take the book of Colossians and apply it to our own lives? Well, as believers, we believe that we have died with Christ, which means we need to die to our sins. Also, as believers, we have also been raised with Christ, which means that we must live well in him and then put on qualities that are motivated by Christian love. And because Christ is Lord over all, the life of the Christian is a life of full submission to Jesus Christ. So with that, I hope that this will give you a good start in the book of Colossians. So God bless, and thanks for watching.